Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Leading in the Moment. Today, we are joined by Carla Vargas Jasa. She is the president and CEO of Valley of the Sun United Way. Carla, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Eric, for having me. Really appreciate it.
As you can see, we're in the moment, right? You're in your home.
My husband set up my set.
We're going to deal with the internet connections. We're going to do all that. So I apologize if anything breaks up, but we have an important discussion today about the impact this crisis is having on our nonprofits and what we can do to help. Quickly about Valley of the Sun United Way. Third largest United Way in the country, $85 million in revenue. You guys work with about 70 nonprofits, including schools, and have about 100 employees here locally. So you guys are huge here in the Valley, have a huge influence. I want to ask you about what this current crisis has done and how it has impacted our nonprofit community.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. And again, thank you for having me during this time. I think that we're all learning to work and do our best in the new normal. And that certainly is what here in the Valley of the Sun has been doing. So we actually were just about to launch a number of our new 2020 priorities as this pandemic started to really become real here in our community. And we had already established a set of input sessions with our nonprofit partners that we work with to really hear from them about what they felt United Way should be focused on as we move our work forward, what goals should we set together to really move the needle on for vulnerable families and children here in the community. And then 3 weeks ago, everything changed. And we decided to still hold those sessions, and we held them virtually with our nonprofit partners. And over the course of 2 days, we held sessions and had over 150 of our nonprofit leaders join us to talk in both of those sessions. And they shared both their current pressures that they were feeling programmatically with being able to even operate their organizations with all the event cancellations that have been happening and loss of revenue, and then heard from them about their concerns as we move this forward in the future, both for their nonprofits and for our community, and then talked about opportunities of how we as United Way could support them, and heard a lot of really great feedback about, really being someone to help to cut through the noise as they were trying to really serve their populations and their communities. While many of us were staying home, they were really serving the vulnerable populations that needed support. With the school closures, many of them were rising to the occasion with providing childcare, providing food. Thinking about how can we help to house and serve homeless who are not sheltered when we now have a shelter place, order in place. Really a lot of pressures that we're facing. They asked the United Way to help to step up and help to provide additional resources for them, engage the community, engage the corporations that United Way has a legacy of working with around the solutions that we talked about needing together, at least in the very short term.
All right, let's talk about the new fund that you guys have set up. I know because you're excited that this came together so quickly. And you mentioned noise too. There's a lot of noise out there when it comes to small businesses, nonprofits, where the relief will come from, whether that's the Small Business Administration, whether that's banks, whether that's grants. And you guys are working really hard to get through that noise, cut through that noise, and get nonprofits the funds they need immediately. So tell me a little bit about the fund you have set up that you just launched, and I believe you'll be rolling out funds here April 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the noise, part of the challenge is that things are changing daily in terms of resources available from the federal government, from the state, and so the philanthropic community, and we're really proud to be partnering with the Arizona Community Foundation and others who are creating a collective response to this effort so we can get funds to our nonprofits quickly. A week ago this past Friday, in response to what we heard from our partners, we launched the United for the Valley COVID-19 Fund to specifically provide grants to that family of partners that we talked about, so around 70 human service nonprofits and education nonprofits, and also some schools that were immediately rising to the occasion, had increased program pressures. They were doing everything they could to provide support and still keep their. And we've heard already that some nonprofits have had to lay off significant numbers of their employees. I'll give you an example. The YMCA had to lay off 1,000 employees the week before last, and then last week they laid off 60 employees. And they are also at the same time rising to the occasion to provide childcare for essential service workers. And so we launched that fund a week ago this past Friday. United Way put in $200,000 from unallocated grants that we were able to shift, so we had to pivot quickly to do that. And we set a goal to raise $1 million by this past Friday, and we exceeded that goal thanks to the generosity of our corporate partners in this community. So we're sitting at about $1.3 million. And on Friday, we immediately released about a 5-question grant application for our partners. We received 11 applications as of yesterday, and we will be putting out some funding this week. So we're really, really pleased with that, and are just so thrilled and heartened by the response of this community and how they really want to know our critical service right now.
One of the things you said that really just hit my ear right was a 5 or 6 question grant application where you're making it easy on everybody in a time where it is so complicated. So thank you for doing that and allowing our nonprofits to keep going. Talk about the impact, because the headlines obviously are on a lot of them are on the small businesses, and yes, we're all being hit hard. You see the food and restaurant industry, the hospitality industry hit so hard. But then you said these nonprofits, they're working on our front lines. What happens in your experience? You've been in other communities before in similar roles. When our nonprofit system starts to be impacted the way it has, especially so recently, where people are being laid off and they can't open their doors. These nonprofits that maybe people haven't heard of yet, but know that the work that they do is so impactful for all of us. Talk about that a little bit and why these funds are so important.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you bring up small business, and nonprofits are small business. They're not they're not not-for-profits, right? And so many of them are being impacted just like small businesses are, but at the same time, they're having an increased demand for the services they provide to those most vulnerable in our community. So it's a really, really difficult situation, and clearly nonprofits are here to serve our community. They're the people who are, like you said, providing the homeless. They're feeding families of students that they may be care of during the morning. They're helping to, and that people don't hungry. They're the ones who are on the front lines, and other than healthcare workers and our first responders, that our nonprofit sector is at the front lines right now with this challenge. So we're really been able to support that, to be able to announce some grants this Friday. And really, it's been tremendous how the community has really come together. We've had a number of our past leaders of the United Way, for example, the past CEO of PetSmart, several past community leaders really just rise to the occasion and are challenging to do the same.
You just talked about rising to the occasion, and we're calling this series Leading in the Moment. And can you talk about what the mindset you've had to adapt to, or that you've always had, that has allowed you to lead such a large organization, such an influential organization, lead through this as we're in it right now, and hopefully we'll accelerate out of it soon. But just tell me about what you have brought to the table, the sort of leadership skills and philosophies you've had to lean on in this tough time.
Thank you for asking that. This is my 9th year, CEO of the Valley of the Sun Way, and proud to be in this role, but also really cognizant of the fact that being new to a community, being new to an organization, the most important thing that I could do in coming here in the first 4 to 5 months was really just listening and understanding people's perceptions of the United Way, what they wanted United Way to do and to be for our community. I asked people for incredibly candid feedback and just shut up and listened, and I heard it and was able to develop that into a new philosophy for how we were going to engage with the community, and how our organization was going to, as I mentioned earlier, implement some new and bold 2020. Having done that, though, I feel like I was able to really build the relationships for the nonprofit sector with the leaders in this community, with our philanthropic community, so that even though we had to pause on our 2020 priorities, we had the attention of this community's leadership as to what they thought United Way should really do and to lead with this community in times of need and taking a stand on issues. And so we're able to really quickly pivot to be able to respond. And so I think listening, hearing what people have to say, being flexible obviously is critical at any given moment. You have to be able to pivot depending on the circumstances. Have to be incredibly communicative, collaborative. Of course, this is a situation where we as an organization need to both respond to our community and also respond to our staff. And so communicating nonstop with the staff, very transparent. I have not had all the answers, as none of us have since we jumped into this, but also understood and knew that we have a duty to respond to our community. That's why United Ways exists in any community, is to really identify the greatest challenges and help to bring people together around solutions. And this is our opportunity to do that, especially after our process to step up.
On the topic of stepping up again, what do you need from us? What do you need from the community when you're asking for whether it's donations or volunteer time? What is most vital for you right now in the organization?
I think that's most vital right now for our community is for, first and foremost, people to stay home and flatten the curve if you can, right? And then also think of those who are at the front lines right now, are helping the most vulnerable, who can't help themselves, and think about how you can be a part of that solution. And one way is certainly to go to our website, VSUW.org. We have the United for the Valley COVID-19 posted on there. As I said, we did reach $1.3 million in our first week, but we know these needs are going to continue, and they're going to than we can even imagine. So the collective contributions of our community to that fund, a huge impact. I also taking a look at there are issues that people or needs that organizations have with supplies, and we have those all posted on our website as well that can help to contribute. I think also being a voice for how we as a community can help one another. So talk to your city elected officials, talk to state officials about, how can we get those shelters who are unfortunately on the streets right now, and by releasing a simple space that someone could easily make available, we can solve. I think being open to and thinking differently about how we can all leverage our resources to solve community issues is what everyone should be thinking critically and creatively about doing right now.
Carla, I just want to thank you so much for, I know you've got such a busy schedule, everything that you've got going on right now, and bearing with the setup as well. We would normally be sitting in a studio, but dealing with internet.
Nice to meet you too.
So I really appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to share all those resources, the website, and just continue doing what you're doing. We can't thank you enough for all the hard work. So Carla, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Eric, thank you. And thank you so much for pivoting your series to really think about how we can all, as leaders, address the issues that are facing our community right now. So thank you.
Thanks, Carla.